Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel Black Moon Astro. Today I'm going to try something a little bit different. Instead of doing a video, I'd like to do a podcast since um, I'm in my room and I don't exactly want to make a video at the moment, but I do have a lot of things that I want to discuss. Um, in the last video, I did about the vertex. I spoke about, the vertex and the anti-vertex. I spoke about twin flames, and I compared that to the south node and the north node and soulmate relationships. So, for those of you that are on the twin flame path, there are a lot of things that I have been listening to that I don't necessarily, I wouldn't say, um, I wouldn't go as far as saying that one person on this planet knows exactly what a twin flame relationship is. There really is no evidence except for the experience. But there are a lot of things in life that are such, like religion, and things we believe in, our belief systems, spirituality, and a lot of other strange occurrences on on this planet that has no evidence, or you just can't find a way to validate or to confirm the existence of certain things. And the same goes for twin flames. So in my, let's call it curiosity, which began more than a decade ago, I started exploring the whole concept of twin flames because I had experienced something that was very different from any other experience I've had. But I had no idea that that was a twin flame. There was no name to it. I had no idea what to call it. Everybody back then only knew about soulmates and stuff, and so I guess in my head I thought, okay, so this is probably a soulmate experience, right? I didn't know what to call it, but this happened back in 2001, and back in 2001 on the internet there really wasn't much information on anything. I used the internet back then to email. I used Hotmail, Yahoo, and social media back then was something called Friendster, if I remember correctly. So this was even way before Blogspot came along, before, what was that other one? Can't really quite remember. Um, there was another website that everybody went to back then to write blog, apart from Blogspot. Anyhow, okay, so since there wasn't enough information, when I had my Kundalini rise while I was dancing with this person, I didn't know what to make of it. I was always a spiritual person. I always was a seeker. I always meditated. I studied many forms of meditation. Um, I I tried yoga, but I was a professional ballerina since I started when I was 3 and I retired when I was 33. So 30 years of dancing. So I didn't really need yoga for myself. I did my meditation and my dance was my prayer. And I used dance as a way to connect with my own soul. And I can't explain everything on one podcast, but when you when you understand your energetic centers in your body, which in yoga or in meditation is known as the chakra centers. When you understand that, when you understand how it flows inside of you and how to control, not really control, you have, but you do in a way, you control your body, but you cannot really control energy. Energy is not something we control. It's something we allow to flow or we restrict. So when you learn how to let energy flow in your own body, I mean your own physical body, you feel, you're able to be sensitive enough to feel it within you as it moves. So when I meditate, I pay attention to these energy centers and I follow the chakra system because technically, I mean, it's the best way to describe what's going on inside of us. The solar plexus, when we're nervous, we feel that. We feel it there in that part of our body. When somebody hurts our feelings, we feel it in our heart chakra. So these sensations that are swirling inside of your body really can be attributed to the chakra system that they used. They used way back in yoga practices. But regardless of what you call it, we just give them names because it's just so much easier to compartmentalize and understand these things with when we give it a name. But I let's just stick to energy centers. When I was dancing, years of ballet training taught me to pay attention to my own body. And so when I was dancing with this person and the kundalini rose all the way to the top of my head, it you see that kind of energy flow in a body would only happen in dancing if I was exerting enough effort and I was completely lost in ecstasy in the middle of a dance. Okay? But even then, I never had a kundalini rise. I mean, I would just feel the kundalini energy inside of me, not knowing it was kundalini, but again, it's a name, right? I would feel that kind of energy inside of me and flowing through my whole body as I was dancing. And so you understand when it starts from below that the energy is heavier. And as it rises, you feel more elated. And in ballet, and I also did modern ballet and contemporary dance and jazz. I studied that also later on. But in ballet, let's just stick to ballet first. You feel that energy when you do steps that are more grounded, and when you do steps like a grand jeté and you rise. So that's the same thing when you feel energy flowing in your body starting from the bottom, moving up to the top of your spine all the way up to your head. Okay, so there is that sensation that I always felt when I was dancing throughout my body. The rising and falling of the kundalini energy. Now, when I felt that as I was dancing with this person, and we were not dancing like pros. In fact, the situation was I was teaching, he was my client, my student. I was teaching him how to dance swing. I don't know if any of you know swing, but this is a dance from the 70s and early 80s. It's a disco dance, but anyway, it's a very easy dance. The beat is just 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, and so since he was not a professional, I was teaching him basics. You can imagine how the dance class went. It was very simple. We were just moving around, nothing complicated, nothing that would cause my kundalini to really rise up and come down and rise up, and it's none of that was going on. It was just a steady flow of energy you exert when you're doing something physical like exercise and dancing. That's how it felt. But as we stopped a little bit and slowed down, I don't know how this happened, but I don't know why it happened. In fact, we just ended up dancing like couples would in during a prom, and cheek to cheek or something like that. And we were just stepping from side to side. It just happened naturally. And as that happened, I felt the energy, that energy that I'm so familiar with as a dancer when I feel elated, begin from the bottom of my spine and rise up. And, and then it stayed in my solar plexus. I could only call it the solar plexus area, but it felt a little bit like a notch higher, like right between the heart and the solar plexus, somewhere there. It was swirling, really. It even if I had listened more closely, if I had known exactly what was going on, because I was really confused, um, I could swear there was a sound to it, like a I really can't explain it. It happened so fast, but it was stuck there for a bit. So if it took about a second for it to rise to my solar plexus, when it got right there, it seemed stuck and stayed there for perhaps 10 seconds of swirling. And then it just went all the way through my heart, my throat. I don't know, I felt, can't say I heard it. I felt my head, the top of my head go poof. And I closed my eyes because it felt like, it felt like the big O as well as it was rising. And so when it went through the top of my head, it felt like there was a small hole, like, a fountain hole, or like whales when they show whales with the holes on their head. It felt like there was that at the top of my head that went psh. And as I opened my eyes and came to, I had no idea what had just happened, but I was feeling extremely elated. I looked around me and I saw, and this was broad daylight, so it's not as if it was dark and there were lights playing tricks on me. No, it was mid-afternoon. Everything was glass because I was facing his glass windows, which covered the entire wall from floor to ceiling. So I was seeing only glass. The sunlight was filtered and not facing me. So I saw like I can only call it like a matrix formation of white crystals, like diamonds, sparkling. And I can't, because I didn't know what was happening. I can't really give a very, very concrete sketch of it, but I do know that I was seeing it all around, like it formed a globe around us, and that was it. And so I was very embarrassed when I came to, because I'm sure he had no idea what had just happened to me, but I'm sure he felt my body go into that experience, which from an observer's point of view, which was his point of view, it seemed like I was having an, can I say this, an orgasm in the middle of his living room while dancing with him, which was really strange. So I jumped away. Immediately, I was so confused by this experience that I jumped away. I said, no, 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 just stay away from me. Just stay there. Wait a minute. Just don't come near me. Because I was afraid that if he came any closer, I would have several of those, or I didn't know what to expect. I needed to compose myself. I needed to figure out what had just happened to me. So that is um, that was the peak. Okay, I mean everything else that led up to that was also strange, but for me that was the strangest experience I've ever had. And the reason I had to point out that I'm a dancer and I'm spiritual and I pay attention to my energy centers is because, precisely because what I felt, since I know my body very, very well, what I felt happening rise in my body was nothing I have ever felt in my 30 years of professional dance. Well, not professional. I started professionally when I was 12, but still, in my almost 2 decades of professional dancing. So that was, I am 100% sure that that was not normal, even though I didn't know what to call it. And so when all of that ended, just like any experience that is out of this world with somebody whom you're naturally attracted to. And so, because there was no name for it, I didn't call it anything but a crush or an attraction. I didn't, I don't ever really like to call these experiences soulmate experiences or twin flame. I don't really like to put labels on it because um, it takes us away from the real experience. So the way I usually, within myself, um, l- analyze these situations is energetically, because it's an energy exchange. Every encounter we have with every person, and especially we feel it most in romantic relationships or meetings, is an energy exchange, and it's just a different type of energy and a different level, a different intensity. So calling it this or that sometimes makes us so attached to the label that we forget its purpose. And this is the reason why later on, as I was going on, studying all these things, I have listened to thousands of videos, read I don't know how many books and articles on everybody's concept on twin flames. And um, a lot of it makes sense, but some of it doesn't. But perhaps that's because that is their energetic experience and my energetic experience is different. But if there is one thing that I really believe is not part of a twin flame experience, or should not be the center of these types of relationships, divine counterparts, twin flames, soulmates, or whatever you want we call it them, um, is obsession. I can understand how soulmates, especially if we're talking about the North Node connections, these can be very obsessive. Plutonian and Venus connections, generally Plutonian, but Pluto and Venus especially, are very obsessive types of relationships. But even then, and especially with a twin flame connection in astrology, which I have calculated down to the vertex. I've explained it. If you want to know how I did that, you can go back to my other video. I'll put it in the link below about the vertex and the anti-vertex, twin flames, and soulmates. Listen to that video and I explained how the vertex is calculated. But the gist is that Soulmates is connected to the soul and the moon. The moon's nodes, the moon, that's our soul. That's our karmic cycle in this life. Um, and the vertex is completely separate from our karmic experience. This is the God part within, the God spark within us, the purest form of ourselves that's connected directly to God, to spirit, up there, far away from karma, the karmic cycle of life. So, a soulmate experience is very different a soulmate north node, south node experience is very different from a vertex twin flame experience. So it's not to say that a soulmate is in our lives when we meet soulmates, it's a very special relationship, you know. But the vertex is a vertex connection has a completely different purpose, and it touches a very different part of us. So when twin flames meet, of course, like what happened to me, it was so strange. It's never happened before. So you start to wonder. You start to get curious about one, the person that caused that experience in you, and the experience itself. So I I wanted to know what this was all about. And so did he. I mean, it was mutual. And I mean, he didn't have the Kundalini. I wouldn't know. I never asked him. Would have been kind of strange to ask him if he felt me, you know, climax. So that never came up in conversation. But without having to go into detail, it was pretty obvious that we were both very in into each other that time, you know. But you know, life happened, and in fact, when I had met him, when that happened, by the way, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention a very crucial thing. It happened during the 9/11, back in 2001, and this happened in a place halfway across the world from New York, and in a place where we both lived, and his apartment number was 1109. The name of the building we were living in was WW Twin Towers. So the coincidences, you know, the numbers, sequences, all these things, it kind of added up in all my years of research on our twin flame journey. And when I had met him, it was all a coincidence. But what we soon found out that, you know, we had a lot of common friends, and in fact, I had met him. I saw him before that, and I had premonitions about the meetings, but I never told him this. Of course, that would have been sounded crazy to him. So I ignored it too because I didn't want to give in to these. I just didn't want to become that girl who was so how do you say it, obsessed with soulmates or twin flames. I didn't want to be that because I knew deep down inside of me that that was not the right path. That is never the path to take. When you encounter people who impact you in a very powerful way, yes, the tendency is there to obsess because it's strong, it's powerful, you feel it, you want more. But we always have to remember what spirituality is. The path is finding your path to God and enlightenment. So all these other things happening around us happen to help us along our path. And if we don't use these tools, and if we don't recognize that these are what those tools, no, this is what those tools are for, then we're not really learning from our experiences. We're not really getting anywhere on a spiritual level on our journey, right? So I always bring myself back to that. I always co- compose myself when I find myself, quote unquote, obsessing over the whole thing. But what I did with that obsession or curiosity, you know, was to dig for absolute truth. And I know there is no such thing as absolute truth, but we can try hard enough to gather as much information and use our own intuition and, connection to everything else and to God and to spirit, to know more or less what is closer to truth and what's further from truth, right? So if all of us that are on this path are highly sensitive beings, so we feel these things. You know how when you meet a person, you feel if there's something off about them, and other people are just really open and lovely humans. So it's the same thing. It's all an energy exchange. So we kind of feel there's an energy to truth, and there's an energy to non-truths. So, so I've been paying attention to all the stories I've heard about twin flames, and whenever I hear people say, "Oh, you know, he's hurting me, she's hurting me, she's cheating on me, he's cheating on me, and I'm just so sad and depressed, and I want him back so bad," and it it bothers me because this is not what this journey is about. If you allow yourself to go down that path, you're never gonna gain what you're supposed to gain from this sort of experience. So, the what we're supposed to realize is the God within us, because they are the other half of us that is directly connected to our highest selves, our purest form, to God, to Spirit. That's what our twin flame is. A reminder of our purity. And so, when you meet a person who touches your vertex on your chart and reminds you of that purity that you truly are, your truest form, the goal is for you to connect with that part of yourself, to understand the God within you, to know the God within you, to live by that truth. You know, that is the purpose of a twin flame. Now, when that happens, when you recognize that inside of you, when you recognize this part of you that is pure and pure love and consciousness, then naturally you love everyone. Naturally, it just flows out of you. Naturally, you want to help. Naturally, you want to serve. Naturally, you want to give because you have so much abundance within you. It's pouring out of you from that light, you know, from that bright light within you, which is beautiful and ethereal and pure. So, as that happens, and your twin flame, let's say he or she has that same experience, then you come together naturally. that will happen. It's destined, and it's in astrology, of course, I'm going to say it's written in the stars, right? Now, when I read charts, I can see by looking at specific divisional charts as well as the vertex and other ways of looking at how things are going to unfold. I can tell if twin flames are meant to do their whatever it is they're doing for humanity, whatever they feel they want to give or to do to help raise the vibration. I can tell if they're meant to do it together or individually and just support each other, or from afar and just inspire each other. It all depends on where the vertexes touch the other's chart. What planets, especially the axis, the vertex on the axis are the most powerful connections between twin flames. And some will not happen on a physical plane. Some will happen on the north and south node. The IC and MC axis. And the others will happen on the physical plane, the ascendant or descendant axis. When it's on the descendant and ascendant axis, you meet on Earth. If it's on the descendant axis, you're destined to be together. So there is that on a chart. But then, even though you're destined to meet and be together, what good is that relationship if you don't understand exactly what it stands for? If you don't understand that you're supposed to go on your path first on your own. It's about you. Always about you and God. It's you and God. It's the God, source, spirit, whatever you want to call it. And then the two below, like a triangle on Earth. The bottom part of the triangle is the Earth plane. The two, ascendant, descendant, is the couple. The top part is spirit source, the highest point in the sky, where the vertex is calculated from, all the way down. Okay, so that is, that's all for today. I will go more into twin flames and experiences that happen based on how the vertex touches the chart and how other planets and other aspects affect the relationships between twin flames. You see, there is a way to union within a chart, and there is the path to union that follows the correct path. Okay, because on a chart, there are certain houses that are associated with your path to God and your path to enlightenment. And if you are a spiritual person, you need to understand these houses very well. For you to be on a twin flame journey and to do it properly for the right reasons, these houses are going to play a big part in your life. When you don't master these houses, then that's when a twin flame union becomes difficult. Okay? So, alright, so that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed my first podcast. Let's see if this works. But I'll be back soon to talk more about twin flames. Okay, have a nice day and Merry Christmas.